to episode 5 of the very cleverly named Provo City Library podcast.
We are nothing if not literal.
Yes.
And literary.
Yes.
Speaking of.
I was about to make that joke. We are so in sync that our random jokes are getting the same. So, you won't know this if you are listening, but if you are watching, you will notice I have a hat today. I'm not wearing a hat, I'm holding a hat. It's red and fancy because that's what I have in my office already. Today we're doing something kind of fun. We are pulling recommendations out of a hat, or rather, pulling genres out of a hat and giving you our favorite recommendations in that genre.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're very excited. I do want to say that if you hear paper rustling and if you're listening, it's because you think that librarians can just think of authors and titles just without needing notes, but I need notes. So you might hear that.
Also, it's our copious amounts of preparation evidenced by paper rustling.
We're going to try to keep it to a minimum.
Every time you hear a rustle, just know that's someone's really thinking about things. Okay. Some ASMR.
Which one? Oh, I
Let's
get to draw.
see. You get to draw. We'll take turns.
First one is graphic novel, which was the one that we were like, should we leave that in there? And we were like, sure. We can think of one. We can think of favorite one. I do not love graphic novels, and I think it's just I don't think about them. There have been a few that I've read that I have liked, and the one that I picked for this particular one is George Takei's They Called Us Enemies.
Enemy?
Enemy.
I think just singular.
See,
enemy.
This is me looking through my notes so I make sure and get the title right. They Called Us Enemy by George Takei. So he went to the concentration camps, the American concentration camps during World War II, and this talks about his family's journey in that experience. And I think especially for people who aren't aware that that happened and how hard it was and kind of shocking to look back and see what happened. He does a really good job of explaining what happened and what his experience. He was just a little boy confused about what's going on, but his parents worked so hard to make sure he and his brother felt safe the whole time, and they didn't understand really what was happening, and while still like being really honest about how brutal it was to the family and to the other people that were experiencing it. So very good. It came out 2-3 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's kind of new, and I did really enjoy it, and it is a graphic novel.
There you go. There you go. And I have read a lot of graphic novels, though mostly for younger people. A couple of my favorites, what did I say? Let's see. Take that hat. I should have looked up how to pronounce this name, but I'm just gonna, this is a safe space to mispronounce people's names. It's fine. I love just about anything written by Lucy Knisley or Knisley, Knisley. I want to say Kinsley, but I know that's not right. The N is in the wrong place. This is a safe space to mispronounce people's names. I love Kid Gloves, which is it's a graphic memoir of her time being pregnant and having her son. And I think that I read it at a time when I had recently had a baby. And so it was great. But she's very funny. And I think her first graphic memoir is called Relish. And her dad is a chef. And so it's sort of an exploration of food and family, and that translates really well in a graphic novel when doesn't just have to use words to describe food. She can use pictures too.
But now I want it to be Scratch and Sniff.
Oh,
I think.
yes.
A Scratch and Sniff cookbook. Okay, anyway.
There you go. Okay, cool. There's our graphic novel recommendation.
There's our graphic novel. The one we didn't think we would pull out of the hat. Okay, this one is science fiction.
Science fiction.
You go first this time.
Me first? What did I say for science fiction? This one I read either this year or last year. Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir.
So good.
So good. If you can listen to it, though it's a little bit obnoxious because digitally it's an Audible exclusive. So you can't get it from the library. I think we have it on CD. So if you're a person who has access, if you don't have access to a CD player, actually we check those out too.
We do.
But Project Hail Mary is especially good as an audiobook because, just a little spoiler, there are some aliens and their language is different. And when you're reading it, it just looks like music notes. But when you're listening to it, it is something more substantial. So basically, Project Hail Mary is the Earth is going to die, basically, and it's getting too hot from the sun, and scientists understand it, and they are trying to find a way to save Earth, and they have this finite timeline, and they send a group of astronauts, scientists into space. But I mean, it's like light years away. They know, and like, if they find a solution to this problem while they're out in space, like, they're the people who they go back to help fix it, they're all going to be dead. Like, anyway. So it's a bid to save the world. But it's real good.
It is real good.
Sciencey.
And I read it. I didn't listen to it. I wish I'd listened to it.
Oh,
wow.
How
Really?
that sounded like like wah wah. You didn't listen to it, but also that's kind of how the aliens sound. There's my
Excellent.
there.
Maybe I'll...
I don't know what better pitch I could give for that book than the sounds that just came out of my mouth.
That's excellent.
Science fiction.
Science fiction. My pick was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, and I've read several things by him. He Recursion, and I can't remember the other one, but he takes physics and kind of creates a story out of it. And so this one deals with different dimensions, and if you could go to different dimensions and find a world that is better than the one you have, what would you do with yourself in that world? And with all of the different options that are out there, like how many of yous are there out there in how many different life situations? And what does that do if you can travel between them?
And yeah, and what does that?
Yeah.
Do you colonize your own alternate reality
With all of yourselves.
Oof.
I do not want to be around myself that much.
No.
But they're always fast paced. He's very smart in how he describes things. Even though I'm not a physicist, I don't feel stupid when listening to it. So I love science fiction that does not make me feel stupid.
Yeah.
So.
I feel that way about Andy Weir too.
Yeah, he makes it really digestible.
Yeah.
Like understandable.
And then you try and explain it back to somebody, and I'm like, well, they did something with elements, I think. Somehow he made atomic weight seem very captivating. That's a good author. Okay.
Okay. Do I have to draw out? You draw this one.
I'll draw this one. We're not pulling them all today, so
No.
we have the chance to do this again. This is your favorite young adult.
Picking the ones that I struggle with. I do not read a lot of young adult fiction for whatever reason, but I actually just finished one that I really liked, and that was the recent release by Ali Condi called The Only Girl in Town. And the premise is that she just, all of a sudden, she is the only person in town. Everyone is gone. Her family's gone. Her friends are gone. All of the people, her cat is gone. And she doesn't know quite what to do. And so she starts searching for people and trying to figure out. And she keeps finding little messages, trying to discover where they went and how to get them back. And I think what I liked most was kind of the underlying theme, which was, if there's nobody around you, who are you? So if you identify yourself as a mother, but your children are gone, like, who are you? And so as everyone is gone, she's having to face, like, who am I if I can't be a friend, if I can't be a daughter, if I can't be a girlfriend? And anyways, she did an incredible job. It was very delightful to read. It was quick and kept pace really well. And
Does it feel like science fiction? Does it feel supernatural? Like,
it
what?
feels, one of the other librarians was reading it, and she said that she was a little creeped out because, again, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
And she can't figure out, like,
And obviously there has to be a why.
yeah.
Is it
So
aliens? Is it-
it's not horror, but it's suspenseful on that side. But I don't feel like I ever felt like there was something supernatural necessarily going there. There would have to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
It felt very like a realistic, contemporary kind of a story
Yeah.
without too much sciencey stuff.
Cool.
There was no sciencey stuff.
I have it on hold.
It was good.
And I love Ali Condi. I mean, we know her, so that helps.
Yes.
But I love her stuff even if I didn't know her. She's a great writer.
She's a good writer. What did you got?
So this is one of my favorite books just ever. Strange the Dreamer. It's a duology. So Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares by Laini Taylor. Her worlds that she built. She also wrote Daughter of Smoke and Bone, that trilogy. And they are just immersive and beautiful. And Strange the Dreamer is about a character named Laszlo Strange. And he is a dreamer. There are gods that sort of live above a world, and he lives below, and he sort of has memory of a language that has disappeared, and he doesn't quite understand why. And he and this and the other main character, whose name I can't remember. I love this book.
This is why I have notes.
Yeah, I know. They start sort of communicating through his dreams. And it's really good. It's fast paced. The descriptions are beautiful. There is a lot of the color blue, which is, definitely a selling point.
Sure. They do have beautiful covers.
They have such pretty
Which
covers.
almost makes me want to read them.
Yeah. It's really good.
Maybe someday.
If you're ever in the mood for, and there's not a love triangle.
In a young adult novel?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ah.
There is love, but not
There is love,
triangular.
but no triangular. Well, that's nice.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
Cool.
Okay. I think it's your turn.
Tend to cheat. Okay. History.
How about you go first?
This was the one that Erica wanted to pull out because it's not her forte.
No, it's not.
And I just look back. A lot of these, like, I just thought of the first book that came to mind. And history is in the title of my book, which is A Short History of Nearly Everything. And this is from a long time ago, but it's Bill Bryson. And he takes the history of the universe from the Big Bang through civilization. And he's just a delightful writer.
He really is.
If you ever want to start to get into nonfiction, it's not something you really read. Bill Bryson is kind of a good place to start because he tells stories while giving you information. He ties things together really well. He finds fascinating facts that just kind of draw you in, and he can talk about very boring things and you understand them.
Yeah.
Boring things like the beginning of the universe.
That made you saying that made me realize, I'm like, oh, here's another, because here's the truth about my history rating is, as I was going back through and like looking like, what have I read this history? I feel like nope. Also not that. Like, I don't read history. If you don't read history, that's okay too. I actually have read At Home by Bill Bryson.
Which is very much like this book.
Yeah.
It's just the house as opposed to the universe.
It is interesting though, and I feel like it gives you like interesting party anecdotes. Like, you can be sitting in a room and be like, did you know that they couldn't have 2-story houses until they figured out chimneys? The size of the house was determined by, like, because you can't have someone on a second floor when all of your smoke from your fire is hanging out. It's toxic. So
They had to have chimneys.
they had to have chimneys before they could have
At Home, but I didn't internalize that piece of information.
Clearly I did.
Though I did just look at something, I don't remember where, but they were saying that in England, I think, the property tax was based on your footprint. So they would build the house, and then the second floor would be bigger than the first floor because you wouldn't have to pay property taxes on that.
Seems
because it's
structurally unsound.
Well, anyways, houses.
I mean,
anyways,
the things you do to avoid taxes, I guess. Risk.
Did you read a history book?
Did I read it? I have read, you may have heard of this book, The Boys in the Boat by Daniel James. Everybody. Maybe not everybody has read The Boys in the Boat. I don't feel like that's a very innovative history recommendation, I will say. But it's about the rowing team of 1936.
Oh, sure.
The Munich Olympics. 36. It's really interesting talking about this like college team that sort of built the rowing team, and then also sort of contrasting that to the rise of Hitler in Germany. And the Munich Games were really controversial because atrocities were starting to happen. Like World War II hadn't started yet, but the Munich Olympics were basically a real propaganda machine to try and be like, Germany's great, Hitler's amazing, everything's fine here, don't look too carefully. If you have not read The Boys in the Boat, it's excellent.
And they made a movie too.
I believe they did. Documentary? Or
no, I think it was a movie.
Dramatization?
I think it was a dramatization, if I remember. Anyway.
Yeah, there you go. The one history book I've read in my life. Just kidding. I've read more, I know. Let's get one that we read a lot of.
Who made this list?
Who made this list?
Romance.
That was romance. I don't want it. I read so much romantic comedy.
You can throw romantic comedy in there.
Okay, I'll throw some romantic comedy in there. What do I like? I'm gonna go with My Not So Perfect Life by Sophie Kinsella. Is about a girl who is a marketing executive and discovers some shady stuff happening at her company, right? I think so.
Mm-hmm.
And or maybe has like sort of a quarter life crisis. She goes back to her family's farm in northern England. It's green. There are sheep. Turns it into a glamp ground. And then makes her family a lot of money. And perhaps finds love along the way.
I mean, Sophie Kinsella.
Sophie Kinsella.
We do love Sophie Kinsella. I had one that I wanted to put on here, and I'll tell you what it is, and then I'll say why I didn't actually put it on my list. I'm going to tell you what I was going to tell you and why I wasn't. Anyway.
And why I decided not to, though I'm telling you
Time Traveler's
now.
Wife is one of my all-time favorite romances. Mm-hmm. The problem with it is there's a lot of language.
So much language.
It's one, I was getting rid of some books in my house that I didn't feel like I could recommend to other people, and I had a pile of them. And then I had a pile of other books that I just didn't want anymore. And I told my mother she could look through them and just take whatever she wanted, and she looked at the wrong pile. So I saw her walking out the door with The Time Traveler's Wife, and I was like, oh no, you will have a heart attack. So it's
but
so
you
good.
Didn't stop her.
I did stop
her.
Oh,
you didn't
I
stop
did stop
her.
her. Oh, I did. So instead, I'm going to tell you about The Impossible Us, which I read last year, I believe, or the year before. But it is about two people who are in different dimensions. It's all about dimensions in this, but like they start an email conversation and they accidentally kind of run into each other. He's accusing her or she's accusing him about having poor customer service. And so they start this conversation. Oh, that wasn't me. And they start talking about it. And then they decide to meet in person eventually. And they're both at the train station, but they can't find each other. And they start to realize that they are in different dimensions. And so it is just so cute.
How does one travel?
Well,
I mean, it's a romance, so they have to end up together.
Well, yeah. Well, there is like both people are in both dimensions.
Oh.
But kind of like what makes you you, and if you met your spouse in a different dimension, would they still be the person that you fell in love with?
Interesting.
It is very interesting. It was very good.
The Impossible Us. Who
The
wrote that?
Impossible Us. It is by Sarah Lotz. Lotz.
If I had my phone with me, I would go
Yeah.
put it on hold.
We have it in several formats.
Cool. Should we do two more?
Two more.
Two more. Let's see. Oh, it's your turn.
Okay. Because I might pull out romance again. No, self-help.
Self-help. Aw.
Yeah.
I just read How to Keep House While Drowning. And it is so good. It is by, what's her name? Casey Davis? Is that? Casey Davis. How to Keep House While Drowning is more therapy than it is cleaning tips. But it's basically, and it's a short read. It's like 3 hours. And I'm not going to say that when working full time and having 4 small children, I'm drowning. I'm totally drowning. And the fundamental premise of the book is, first of all, like, learn to be kind to yourself and stop shaming yourself for being an imperfect housekeeper. Like, these things that you think are important, these things that you are staking your worth on, are just things. Like, dishes are not moral. They are just dishes. And your home needs to be a functional space. So she talks about, like, she does have tips for, like, okay, if this room is a total disaster, what do you do first? She calls it the 5 things tidying method. So you get rid of trash. Like, you sort things into trash, dishes, laundry, things that have a place and things don't have a place, and you tackle them in that order. Just like, and if you lose steam, you're at least getting rid of trash and dishes, which is the most important thing for your health and hygiene. She talks about setting up functional systems that our homes serve us, not the other way around. Like, we don't serve our home. So she's like, I might have a Lazy Susan on the counter, and it's not pretty because it has pencils and pills and car keys. And, like, those are things that don't seem like they go together, but those are things that I need every single day, and they're located in a place when I need them. And so she talks about stuff like that. It's really good and really gentle, and, like, you leave feeling like, my life is not a total disaster, even though Mount Laundry still exists.
Excellent.
It's clean. They're all clean. Just in a laundry basket. I did buy a handheld steamer.
Oh.
So I didn't have to worry about my clothes getting wrinkled when we don't put them away fast enough. These are the kinds of tips you get from this book.
Mine is not quite like that.
That's fine.
Mine is called Quiet, which a lot of people have probably already heard of and read. But Quiet, the Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. And it's been out for quite a while, but it was so eye-opening to me. It kind of it explained me to me. Like, why do I do this? And why? Because I, shockingly, as a librarian, am an introvert. There's a bunch of us around here, but we also love people and we love doing different things. And so being able to kind of listen to why we do some of the things and why we feel some of the things that we feel, and then why we're very valuable. Just because we're quiet, that doesn't mean we don't have things to contribute. And there's some people throughout history that have been introverts that have contributed great things, because they often are the people who are sitting and thinking instead of just spewing everything all the time. So good. If you haven't read it, you should.
I probably should.
Probably should.
I'm a very chatty introvert. That's what I am. Okay,
this is the last one.
This is the last one for today. And it is cookbooks.
Cookbooks. Excellent. I think the internet is my cookbook.
Yeah.
So I kind of didn't, I was like, yeah, we should do cookbooks. And then I was like, actually, I don't use a lot of cookbooks. But then I thought of the one cookbook that I use the most, and the library does not own it.
Oh.
But
perhaps we should talk to our
the library does own
person.
Another cookbook by the same author. So the author is Lizzie Early, And she actually used to be my neighbor, which is how I got the book. But she makes everything with cake mixes. And so the book that we use at home is called Make It With a Cake Mix. But Your Cup of Cake is the one that is here. And I don't know, it's mostly desserts and cakes and stuff. But my daughter, it just has big pictures. And my daughter loves to find a recipe, look through the recipe book, see a picture that she likes, that she would like that cake for my birthday, please. And it's easy because it's with a cake mix.
Nice.
We like it.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I use the Our Best Bites cookbooks almost exclusively. Like, I have made nearly everything out of the first one and nearly everything out of the 400 calories or less one. They are just all, and I use their blog all the time, stellar recipes. Again, I don't know that that's like an innovative, like, have you heard? You're in Utah. Probably you've heard of Our Best Bites, but if you haven't, it's just really good food.
We played a game once here at the library because we had a bunch of new books come in, and there was a bunch of cookbooks on the cart. And so I said, this is the game. Everybody stand up. I'm going to go to a random recipe, and if you don't have, I'm going to read through the ingredients, and if you don't have that at home already, sit down. And some recipes, like, nobody had the ingredients, and some recipes everybody did. So, like, Our Best Bites, I would guess, would be the kinds of things like you look in it and you're like, I have all of these things without needing to go to the grocery store. And some of those other fancy cookbooks who do fancy things, they're just not things you keep on hand. And that's when I get into them, I'm like, I can't cook and go to the grocery store. It's all too much. So I end up not using them much. But I love cookbooks that use ingredients that I have in my pantry.
Yes, Our Best Bites is very much like that. As long as you keep limes and garlic in your pantry.
I do.
Cream cheese also.
A lot of cream cheese.
So good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's us for today. Next time, I think we're going to talk about book clubs, so that's exciting.
It is.
But this is kind of a fun, we'd like to remind you about library services, but also we have books and we read them, and you should too.
Yes.
So
please come and visit us, check out our books, whether through the app or through Libby or here in the building.
Yep. Okay, we'll see you next time.